In Rifenheim, the capital of the Antares Empire, a great catastrophe was happening there. A huge blaze could be seen covering every corner of the city. The catastrophe was caused by the invasion of humanity's troops who invaded the place used as the headquarters of someone who was said to be the Demon King. The monsters roared to show their dominance. They fought hard to block the invaders. Many casualties fell with every footstep they took. The soldiers were seen preparing to face the monsters with trembling hearts. Seeing such a tragic scene, the emperor then recalled their efforts in this invasion. Their military of 2 million troops were defeated by the evil demon they summoned. A soldier behind him then explained the details to him. 200,000 troops died from wide-range magic attacks and summoning, and 300,000 were injured. Hearing that, the emperor with a heavy voice said, "The Demon King may have brought their country to destruction and filled this world with evil, but this is the end. The evil Demon King will die at the hands of the true hero." Hearing that, the soldier said that this is all thanks to your majesty's wisdom. At the center of the great demonic palace Garak, the Hall of Abyss, seeing the Demon King in front of him, the hero, Alex von Hallein, said, "No more of your evil deeds, it is time for you to meet your death." The evil Demon King, Rifenhardt, saw their arrival. The Demon King was still seen sitting leisurely on his throne. He was the emperor of the Antares Empire. Rifenhardt walled Antares, with a sword in his hand. The sword saint, Cyrus, then said to him, "Demon King, we will eliminate you and end the history of this dark empire." Hearing that, Rifenhardt said that this was a little disappointing. He put a lot of effort into building this empire. He was confused why he called it the Dark Empire, when the name is Antares. Like in other parts of the world, the sun also rises here. Hearing his casual tone, the martial king, Tesslon, excitedly said, "It is because here you raise demons. When you are gone, the demonic nature of those corrupt monsters will also disappear." Rifenhardt was speechless hearing that. He didn't understand why they would think of something like demonic nature like that. They were already like that from the beginning. He just taught them human tactics. They had been mistreated all their lives, so he taught them how to retaliate. And now they said that the monsters were corrupt. They're just doing things humans do. After a moment of silence, Rifenhardt then asked them if they had defeated all 4 heavenly kings. Cyrus confirmed it. He said that those dirty orcs were no match for his sword. Rifenhardt immediately became anxious hearing that. He then sadly asked, did he mean to tell him that the brave great orc warrior, Tathid, was dead? He was really sad at this time. Even if the orcs look barbaric, they are an innocent species of hunter-gatherers. They never betray their own kind. They protect the weak and fight the strong. How dare they call them as if they are monsters, even though they are dirty because they rarely bathe. But still, Tesslon smiled mockingly at his question. He said, that sickening monstrous troll were just paying for their sins. Rifenhardt was shocked to hear that. He did not expect that even Gurita Filka was dead. He knew that the trolls are a bit scary looking, but isn't he being too harsh? They were just nature lovers who focused on spirituality. In a solemn tone, the saintess, Ellen, said that the evil dwarf who worshipped the god of dark has also been brought to justice. Rifenhardt was sad to hear that. Even Michelin was also dead. He was also confused, since when was the god of dwarves, Alpath, a god of dark? They were very arrogant. They think that all gods other than the Sayer and the 12 gods are just evil beings. The Mage of Light, Jade Archlight, said that they've sent the corrupt dark elf to the beyond too. She is no match for his magic. It successfully triggered Rifenhardt's anger. He has a very close relationship with one of the dark elf girls named Cirrus. He can imagine the desperate expression of the girl when getting such unfair treatment. With blazing anger, Rifenhardt then asked them, did they all ask to be killed? They were not at all afraid to see that. They were even happy because he finally showed his true nature. The dark elves were demons who had fallen to the dark side. They have no compassion for such creatures. Rifenhardt then felt upset hearing that. He then could only helplessly cover his face. He said that the skin of the dark elves was indeed darker than theirs, but that was because humans like them had cut down all the trees, and they had to evacuate to the barren land. He asked them, would they give such a bad treatment to pure-blood high elves like dark elves just because their skin darkened? But they certainly would not pay attention to his words. They probably just felt that he was just spouting nonsense. As they prepared to attack, the hero said that he would avenge the dead with this sword. Rifenhardt was really annoyed. They didn't want to listen to him at all. He then asked them, then, who would avenge the dead otherworldly? The hero feels that he is truly despicable, in his mind. If it weren't for his evil power, the monsters wouldn't have fallen to the dark side, they would have lived their daily lives normally as it was their destiny. Hearing that, Rifenhardt then realized that it was useless to talk to them. They didn't want to listen to his words at all. To them, the otherworldly species was just a species of the dark that wanted to live as slaves, and just for that, they thought that they deserved to be killed. Seeing the hero who rushed towards him, Rifenhardt muttered, then, he would become the demon king as they wanted. Rifenhardt didn't care anymore at the moment, he would attack them with everything he had. The hero's party was swayed when Rifenhardt finally attacked them without restraint. With tears flowing from both eyelids, Rifenhardt then recalled his life journey. He used to be just an ordinary great mage, but the word ordinary didn't seem right to describe a great mage. Throughout his journey, Rifenhardt realized that humans did not consider otherworldly species as their equal, as creatures with minds like humans. Elves were considered beautiful servants who lived long lives, dwarves were slaves who were good at digging, orcs were good for manual labor, and trolls were used as ingredients for healing potions. They were considered slaves who had no will of their own. He was very surprised when he first saw their forgotten culture and how deep it was. He then began to get to know them, as well as their culture. He managed to learn spiritual magic from the elves and sorcery from the trolls. By combining them, he managed to become the first mage to reach the 10 circle in history. He continued to interact with them, which changed his outlook on life. He could no longer watch them being treated as slaves and began resquizing them. When his territory began to expand, it was difficult for him to continue to trick the humans. The humans then began to send knights to raid them. They continued to raid them and destroyed many of the things they had built. All they did was fight back when attacked, but somehow they got more land, and the city they built became larger. The city became bigger and bigger until it became the Antares Empire. The citizens cheered to celebrate the achievements they had achieved so far. He did establish the Antares Empire, but this does not mean that he hates humanity. He just believes that otherworldly species are not inferior to humans. They did not take any retaliation against humans, but this is the result they got. The humans destroyed the land of dreams that they had worked so hard to build. Even if the residents of Antares agreed that this was a good place to live, the humans insisted that this was just an evil spell from the Demon King that made them say so. He understood why they would think that way because his soldiers were made up of ogres and goblins. They were not a beautiful species to look at, but killing his citizens for such reasons. It was unacceptable. He had a duty to protect his empire. If there is a law that allows murder, he would abolish that law and make a new one to replace it. Rifenhardt then controlled his magic power to attack. The hero was so overwhelmed when his magic attack finally hit him, unable to hold on anymore. He then bounced far back. Seeing the hero now lying on the ground unconscious, Tesslon then worriedly called out to him. Rifenhardt snorted seeing that the hero could be so easily defeated by him. He believed he was called a hero only because he was proficient in both sword and magic. But in reality, he had not reached master in either. In short, he is well-rounded. But he is not strong. Heroes only survive to the end in stories. In reality, it's best to dig one well. Now only the martial king Tesslon is left, a person known for his strong physique. It is not difficult for him to defeat others. But Tesslon is different. Tesslon looked very angry at the moment. A very ferocious aura could be seen enveloping his whole body. After taking a stance, Tesslon then rushed towards him and attacked. His attack was so strong that it destroyed the floor where Rifenhardt was originally standing, but fortunately he was able to avoid his attack quickly. Rifenhardt was aware that people who only focused on one thing seemed to be more difficult to defeat, and sure enough, before he could even catch his breath for a moment, Tesslon then quickly attacked him again. He was so overwhelmed in blocking the successive attacks that Tesslon threw at him. When he finally gained a foothold, he was then surprised when he saw Tesslon who was already on his side and attacked him. Rifenhardt then quickly cast defensive magic to block his attack, but it seemed too late, because before the defensive magic could even form completely, Tesslon's attack had already hit the top of his head. Rifenhardt's head looked like it was going to be dented when he received the attack. Tesslon said that this was their victory. Pretending to be strong, Rifenhardt then asked, "Is that all you can do?" He said that he parried his attack earlier with magic, although Rifenhardt's tragic condition could be seen clearly at this time, but the stupid Tesslon believed his words. As expected of the leader of the demons, Rifenhardt's condition was really tragic at the moment. He could only curse. His spine was broken. He looked like he had no neck at the moment. He realized that if this continued he would die. All he needed to do to get out of this situation was to kill Tesslon, but it was impossible with his current condition to win against him. While walking slowly towards him, Tesslon said that he would send him to his judgment. Rifenhardt was not denial, he acknowledged his victory. He also congratulated him on that. Hearing that, Tesslon said he would assume that now the others would be free from their demonic restraints. Rifenhardt was stunned to hear that. Anger was once again rising in his heart at this moment. He was about to surrender, but after hearing his words, he realized that he could not surrender, free of their demonic restraints. Does he mean that living as a slave is their natural destiny? He can't accept that. This is too maddening. Rifenhardt then took out an item shaped like a small ball. It was the Eye of Time and Space. A magic artifact he found in an ancient ruin. It's an artifact with very powerful magic that even he, a 10-circle mage, has yet to decipher. Seeing that, Tesslon frantically said, "What do you want to do?" Rifenhardt did not care at all about his panic. He then began to read the spell, Time and Space Regression Spell. A spell that turns back time and destabilizes the god's providence. Rifenhardt himself did not know if this would work, but there was no harm in him trying. He then challenged Tesslon to stop him if he could. Tesslon accepted his challenge. He then rushed forward to attack him. As his magic casting was almost complete, Rifenhardt thought, I can't die like this. And when Tesslon's attack finally landed, a huge explosion effect was then created. The explosion looked like it would devour everything in existence. A few years before the raid on the Demon King's castle, in a lush forest, birds were chirping, enlivening the atmosphere of the vast forest. At the middle of the forest, there was a log cabin. A gentle breeze and warm sunlight then entered, and fell on the occupant. In a semi-conscious state, he then thought, this sound, this warmth, this comfortable feeling. He wondered, am I still alive? Did I really succeed? A spell that he hadn't even half deciphered. He knew that he was a genius, but he didn't expect this to work. Looking at the unfamiliar scene in front of him, he wondered, where am I? He guessed that it seemed like he jumped over the timeline, but he didn't remember being in a place like this. While scratching his head in confusion, he also wondered, how old am I now? He was certainly the Rifenhardt who had successfully activated the artifact the Eye of Time and Space, and successfully regressed, but his appearance now seemed to be somewhat different from his previous self. Rifenhardt then got up from his bed and walked to the mirror to look at his current body. Judging from his physique, most young men would cry over it, but he was confused. Looking at that unfamiliar face, he asked, who are you? He was also confused when he saw the many scars on his body. This body was full of wounds and covered with muscles. He felt that it was very disgusting. A mage only needs to be good at magic. What kind of useless six-pack is this? Although he felt that commenting on himself was strange, but his body when he was young could attract many women. And after he got older, he became even cooler and made some elves cry, so he was a little unable to accept this. What's wrong with this stupid face? Where did my statue-like face go? Now my body is even more statue-like. He is really confused now. What happened? Did the time and space regression spell fail? Is that why he is in the body of an unknown man? If so, he guessed that this might not be the past. He wondered, did he exist in the present and instead changed his body into this man? He then looked at his new body in more detail. These brown and thick eyebrows, these persistent-looking eyes, and this hard mouth. If his upper body was enlarged more than this and his face grew hair, then, he would be very similar to the indomitable martial king, Tesslon. Rifenhardt then turned his head in surprise when someone called him by the name of Tesslon. The person's stature was very similar to him with a body that was much bigger than him. He said that the sun was high in the sky. He asked him, what was he doing here? Why didn't he come out? Rifenhardt was very surprised when he saw the person's large body, which made it difficult for him to pass through the cabin door. When he finally got inside, the person then invited him to have another good day today. Rifenhardt could only freeze in silence looking at the person's body, which was twice as big as his body now. He then tremblingly asked, who are you? He was really scared at the moment. He thought he was a monster. Seeing his attitude, the person was confused. He asked, why are you looking at me as if this was the first time you saw me? Hearing that, Rifenhardt tremblingly said that he was asking because he really didn't know. Hearing that, the person chuckled at his ridiculousness. He then asked him, haven't you twice used amnesia as an excuse? I'm sure you must know this excuse won't work anymore. Rifenhardt was then surprised when the person suddenly grabbed his head, and dragged him out of the cabin. With a happy face, the person then took him to the training area. Rifenhardt was then confused by the person's sudden action. He was also confused by the word training. He then tried to release the person's hand that was holding his head, but it was useless. The person was too strong. Seeing this situation, Rifenhardt realized, it seems that this person is Tesslon's master, the strongest martial artist in the continent throughout history, the former martial king, Gerard Krom-Protes. When the two of them finally arrived at the training area, Gerard then tied his whole body to a large tree. Seeing this, Rifenhardt frantically asked him to wait a minute. Could he listen to him first? But Gerard instead covered his mouth with some kind of cloth. He told him to be quiet. He was very chatty today. Gerard then took a bamboo stick and said he would start the training. Rifenhardt then panicked at that. He knew what he would do later. His guess was then proven right at that moment. Gerard then hit the bamboo stick hard against his stomach. Rifenhardt felt so painful that he shed tears when such a strong attack landed on his stomach. He even went so far as to ask about the current reality, what was going on, but the training, or rather the torture that Gerard gave him, did not stop there. He then continued to hit the bamboo stick to his stomach. Rifenhardt felt so tormented that he thought that he would meet his death at this very moment. The figure of Cirrus as one of the people closest to him in his previous life then appeared in his mind. While Gerard himself felt quite confused at the moment, his hand felt a bit strange earlier. Much softer than before. He wondered if he really had amnesia. Their martial clan, Jim Unbreakable, is hardworking, because the characteristics of their training are simple, stupid, and excessive. So it was common that their disciples suffered from short-term memory loss. He had also lost his memory several times in the past, so he didn't feel that Rifenhardt's attitude was strange. Gerard smiled faintly. It wasn't a big deal. The solution was simple. He would feel better after being beaten. Rifenhardt could only wail in despair at the moment. He then silently asked for anyone to save him. In that training session, Gerard then said, the reason humans use weapons is because they are weak. They have a weak physique, so isn't that the reason they rely on armor and weapons? Rifenhardt could only be stunned to hear that. He really couldn't understand the thought. Why would he call humans stupid for using tools? Gerard continued, that's an excuse. That's the shame of a person who couldn't overcome their weakness. Martial artists train to overcome their weaknesses. Rifenhardt was dumbfounded to hear that. This was the first time he had heard such simple and stupid logic in his life. While showing a bamboo stick that had been broken in half in his hand, Gerard said, humans are like steel. The more we beat humans, the stronger they become, just like steel. Rifenhardt was annoyed to hear that. Such stupid logic was completely unacceptable to his brain. While taking a new bamboo stick, Gerard continued. He is the disciple he chose. He believes that he has no physical limits. He can become steel. Rifenhardt could only tremble at that. Gerard was silent for a moment. He realized that not everyone could become stronger by training. Just like iron, only those of high quality can become steel. Only a select few can have a physique like steel, until finally he met him. Gerard then continued the training. He severely hit Rifenhardt's face with the bamboo rod. While repeatedly beating him using the bamboo rod, Gerard then spewed nonsense at him. Think about the ocean. The sea swallows everything, but it doesn't change. The ocean is inside of you. Bring out the ocean in you. Hearing that, Rifenhardt felt it was really ridiculous nonsense. Speaking of the sea, Rifenhardt then recalled the moment of being together with his closest people when they visited a beach in his previous life. When the sun had begun to fall, which indicated the afternoon time, Gerard then ended the training for today. He then told him to go inside and rest. Rifenhardt could not believe that he was not dead. He was beaten many times, but he surprisingly did not die. He then hugged his body. He thanked his body. He was grateful for having a sturdy body. When the night finally came, looking at the liquid he used to bathe, he was really surprised. After feeling it for a moment, he realized that the liquid contained garrote leaves and petals. He wondered, is this a healing potion? A bottle of healing potion alone costs 10 silver coins, but here is a full bathtub that he uses to bathe. He had heard rumors that the queen bathes in milk to get great skin, but that was nothing compared to this. When he first saw the bathtub filled with healing potion, Rifenhard at that time asked his master, what's with this medicinal bath? Hearing that, Gerard explained, we need to cool the steel after hammering it. After training the entire musculoskeletal system to the point of near death, he recovered quickly using the power of aura and healing potion. This way, his body will recover before it gets sick and will become stronger. That means this training method is not completely crazy. He has fought Tesslon directly, so he knows how sturdy his body is. He believes Tesslon has done this training many times since he was a child. He is now convinced that this is the past. While looking at the night sky through the window, he wondered, then what happened to me in the current time? Does young Rifenhard exist? Can the same two souls exist in one time-space dimension? If it can, then he can formulate two hypotheses. First, future Rifenhard and himself, who is in the Tesslon's body, coexist with young Rifenhard. The second possibility, in the body of young Rifenhard, there is the soul of the martial king. After finishing bathing, Rifenhard was then surprised when he saw a mountain of meat piled up in a large plate brought by Gerard. While laughing happily, Gerard then told him to eat it. When Rifenhard began to eat the giant meat, Gerard said, "The body that is used to work hard must be fulfilled with nutrients." After finishing eating, Gerard then invited him to do a light jog so that the food could be digested. Although he said a light jog, but in act they climbed to a very high mountain peak. Rifenhard also seemed to be carrying a heavy load on his back at this time. When they arrived at the top of the mountain, seeing Rifenhard who was walking with difficulty, Gerard then worriedly asked his disciple, "Are you tired, or should we just continue our morning training?" But Rifenhard said that it was not necessary. After that, Rifenhard then continued to undergo training that could not be done by ordinary humans. He could only curse. He wondered, "How long do I have to go through this cruel training?" After finally completing the grueling training, Rifenhard could now only lie limp in his bed. He still seemed unable to adapt to being a Tesslon. He wondered, what would cause this to happen? In the case that he existed as he did in the past, what will happen if the two souls come into contact? He also thinks that he should run away from here. He can't seem to stand it. Each soul has its own uniqueness, is a fixed rule that is the basis of this world. If you're unlucky, your soul may cease to exist. Young Rifenhard is still not active as a mage for the next 10 years. He guessed he must be spending his time studying now, by always reading books in the Magic Tower Delphia, so meeting him would not be possible for now. A question then arose, but, what if Tesslon took over his body? If that was the case, he was sure he would be looking for him. Tesslon's strength was obtained from a body that was always trained using the gym unbreakable method, so there was no way he could do many things using young Rifenhardt's weak body, at least as long as he did not reach the 10 circle. The gym unbreakable was a training method that required a master to be done, and would not be possible to do independently, but after he thought about it for a moment, he was a little hesitant about it. He felt there was a possibility that Tesslon could find a way. Anyway, his main priority now was to escape from this cruel prison. Rifenhardt then sneaked out secretly from the cabin. After seeing that there was no one around, Rifenhardt then with all his might ran away from there. He was determined to escape. He had to leave this place tonight, but he was then surprised when he saw Gerard sitting on a large rock in front of him at this time. Gerard casually asked, "Where are you going at this time of night?" Rifenhardt was really shocked at this time. He was like a monster. He was confused. Since when was he there? While stroking his beard, Gerard said, "You are quite calm for 1 to 2 months, and now you are trying to escape again. If I'm not mistaken, this is the 9th time, meaning the next one is already in double digits." Hearing that, Rifenhardt then decided to be honest with him. He said that he was actually not the person named Tesslon. His name was Rifenhardt. He was a mage, but Gerard certainly didn't believe it. He then casually asked him, "Is that your backstory this time?" Rifenhardt was then confused to hear that. Gerard explained, "Last time you said you were from another world, and said that you had met dragons and also gods." Rifenhardt was stunned to hear that, but Gerard's words did not stop there. He recalled for a moment. What was it before that? In the eastern continent's Huan Empire, in a place called Murim, he once said that he was a master there, but reincarnated or something. Gerard then comforted him. "This time you are quite convincing, you've gotten better." He then held the top of his head and said that it was time to go back and sleep. As Gerard dragged his body back to the cabin, Rifenhardt could only curse him silently. Today he had failed, but he was determined that he would succeed tomorrow. He knew that he failed to escape from this cruel prison today. He understood that very well, but don't expect him to be trapped here forever. Veins filled Rifenhardt's face as he thought about that. It showed how strong his determination to escape from there was. After that, he then tried to escape from there again. He sneaked through the bushes that were there, but Gerard was again able to find him. he casually greeted his disciple. He said that he used to do the same thing when he was a disciple, so he understood what he was feeling. How could he not know? Gerard seemed to know very well where he was going to escape. He could even find him when he escaped through the river. While dragging Rifenhardt's body, Gerard told him not to worry. If he wanted to stay and wait a little longer, he assured him that the results would not betray him. After repeatedly failing in his attempts to escape, Rifenhardt decided to give up thinking about escaping from this old man. The old man who could probably be called the Demon King because there was no word of surrender in his dictionary. Gerard then said to him, Jim Unbreakable has 130 years of disciple escape prevention methods. There have been no disciples in our history who haven't faked an illness or tried to escape. Hearing that, with a look of hatred on his face, Rifenhardt realized, even if he managed to escape, this old man would definitely look for him even to the end of the continent and drag him back for training. He thought it might be better to ask his permission directly to go down this mountain. After Rifenhardt decided to give up on escaping from there, he then unwillingly continued to undergo cruel training with his master. And that was his story for 2 years, surviving in the prison overflowing with love. Seeing the chains that held his body were now increasingly loose, Gerard then happily said, Finally you have reached it, finally you have awakened your aura. Although the training he underwent with his master was indeed very cruel, but the results could be seen clearly. In these 2 years, his body became sturdier. He also managed to awaken the aura. He heard that Cyrus, who was said to be a sword saint, only awakened his aura in his late 20s. He did not expect that he had reached that stage. Even before he was 20 years old, seeing his happy face, Gerard then asked, Why are you surprised? With the Jim Unbreakable training method, something like this is a given. If you do physical training along with stimulating the survival instinct, the will to live will increase your vitality and it will increase the power that is manifested as the aura. While showing a weapon that looks like a kanabo, Gerard said that this kind of thing won't even hurt now. He then threw away the useless kanabo. Now, let's move on to the next stage. Hearing that, Rifenhardt asked, Are they finally going to learn some normal martial arts now? He was happy because then he would be able to get off this mountain soon, right? He then asked, What training will they do now? With a big smile on his face, Gerard said, Sparring duels against him. Rifenhardt froze on hearing that. The rest of the story was predictable, with Rifenhardt getting his ass kicked by Gerard, and the next 3 years went on like that. In the Vasily Kingdom, southern region, Larchid Mountains, deep rough terrain. At a fast-flowing waterfall there, a burly man was standing under the waterfall. The man then clenched his fist tightly and muttered, Calamity Horn. Right after that, a yellowish aura then enveloped the man's fist. The aura grew more and more powerful with time, and when the aura reached its peak, the man then strongly hit the rock wall in front of him using his fist that had been enveloped by the aura. The impact of his punch was so powerful that it almost knocked down the rock wall. The man was of course Rifenhardt. Seeing the results in front of him, he wondered, was third superposition his limit? He thought he had to train even harder. Calamity Horn, a powerful attack that is done by gathering all the power at one point on the body. Because the appearance when concentrating the aura looks like a horn, so this attack is called the Calamity Horn. Rifenhardt, slightly dissatisfied, said that he had to train it again until the fourth superposition, even though he said so, but the impact of his attack was already so strong that it made a hole in the rock wall in front of him. The final stage of the Calamity Horn is the 9th superposition. At that stage, a blow will create 9 waves that are even said to be able to kill gods, but the Tesslon he knew could only reach 7th superposition, and Gerard could only reach 8th superposition. Gerard said that he had to reach 4th superposition to be able to go down the mountain. That old man was currently descending to the village after a long time, so maybe he was enjoying his time and drinking before returning. If it was in the past, he would definitely take this time as an opportunity to escape. Rifenhardt then decided to end his stamina training here. He then muttered, Delfer Lustellen, be a bullet made of air to hit the enemy. A vortex of air was then created which then formed a kind of ball between his hands. He then threw the vortex in his hand towards the tree in front of him. The technique was called arrow bullet, but it did not seem to be a strong thing, because it only caused a small spot on the tree when it hit it. Rifenhardt could only scratch his head at that. This body was not supportive. Although he clearly remembered all his magic knowledge through his past memories, his mana was not developed here, and this Tesslon stone body had no arithmetic ability. He doubted whether he could still be a mage, but he then felt something from the surrounding direction. He felt an energy that did not come from humans. Shortly after that, a humanoid creature then appeared that carried a sword in his hand, looking at the creature. Tesslon knew that it was an orc. The orc then slightly nervously said to him, "If you pretend not to see me, then I will not kill you here." Rifenhardt had already guessed that it was an orc, judging by his size. Maybe he was 3 or 4 years old. He seems like a runaway. Tesslon wondered, did he run away from somewhere like an arena? The orc then threatened him. He told him to pretend not to see him, and he wouldn't kill him. Hearing that, Rifenhardt knew that he said something like that because he saw him not hostile. Indeed, a prideful race that even in a situation like this still didn't want unnecessary killings. Rifenhardt then asked the orc, "Is there anyone chasing you?" The orc was shocked to hear that. He then confusedly asked him, "How could a human like you know the language of grace?" Rifenhardt only said that he had experienced an encounter that was like fate. The orc slightly lowered his guard to him when he heard that. He confirmed it. He was being chased. Hearing that, Rifenhardt then said that he wanted to help him. He asked him, "Do you trust me?" The orc said, "Because you know the language of grace. You are like a brother to me, I can sense your genuine kindness in my very soul." But, he hesitated. He realized that if he helped him he could get him into trouble. Hearing the orc who could speak so fluently, Reinhardt wondered, is he from a good bloodline? He then said that he had the ability to help him. He told him to trust him. Reinhardt then created a kind of purplish aura, and controlled it towards the hole he created in the rock wall earlier. While pointing towards the hole in the rock wall, Reinhardt then told him that his magic would conceal him. The orc was surprised to see that. He then politely asked, "Are you a mage?" Reinhardt asked him back, "Is it strange that I am a mage?" The orc's confusion was natural because the body that Reinhardt currently possessed did not at all match the image of a mage who had a weak body. Not thinking about it anymore, the orc then went inside. He said that he would gladly accept his favor. Shortly after the orc went into the hole, Reinhardt then felt the presence of several people behind him. They were seen walking towards him while swearing. One of them irritably asked, "Do I have to go through all this just to get some silver coins?" Seeing Reinhardt in front of them, the leader then immediately called out to him. He asked, "Did you see any young orc passing by here?" A mustachioed man behind the leader also said that they would give him gold coins if he told them. Hearing that, the leader then hesitantly asked about it. The mustachioed man chuckled soothingly. He said that it was not really given. He then invited him to listen to what he knew and then leave him. But, Reinhardt said no, but they certainly didn't believe it. While pointing at the footprints there, they asked, "Aren't these the footprints of an orc?" Seeing that, they were then convinced that the orc was around there. Reinhardt could only blame his carelessness. He just realized that the basic magic spell did not erase the footprints. He then told them that this was his residence, so he couldn't just let them in. They then got angry hearing that. How dare a bastard like him from a remote forest confront them? The mustachioed man then hesitantly called out to the leader named Bright. He felt like Reinhardt was abnormal. But Bright didn't seem to feel that way. He told him not to be afraid. There were more than 10 of them, with a condescending tone. Bright then told Reinhardt to stop messing around and get out of there now. When looking at him more clearly, he also felt that he had a superb body, but he didn't mind that. After all, he was just a kid. Reinhardt was silent for a moment hearing that. He then created a kind of summoning array under his feet. He then recalled what Gerard had told him at that time. His fist is a deadly weapon. Just a small swing can kill a person. When he heard that, Reinhardt then asked his master, "Then, what should I do?" Gerard told him to show proper compassion to the weak. Only use your fists when fighting the strong. You can use weapons when dealing with the weak. Using weapons is a form of compassion. With the bat in his hand, Tesslon told them not to worry. If he hit them with this, they would not die. The Jim Unbreakable clan focused on unarmed martial arts, but that doesn't mean no weapons training at all. Seeing the bat in his hand, they then asked, "Do you want to fight us with that?" They just felt that he was acting as if he had abilities. With a big smile on his face, Reinhardt then swung the bat randomly at them. They could not even withstand a single blow and were immediately blown away by him. They then immediately became wary when they saw their friend Zul be defeated so easily. They then invited their friends to attack him together, but that did not seem to make a difference. They could still be defeated easily by Reinhardt. However, in fact, the only purpose of this baton art, the only weapon technique they have, is not for combat, but more to rigorously train disciples, so the speciality is to attack the enemy's whole body. There is no defensive movement, only attack. When fighting with them, Reinhardt then knew, it was clear that they were mercenary who made money using their weapons, while Reinhardt was busy fighting with his friends. The mustachioed man then found an opening in his movement and immediately slashed his sword at his back, but, the slash did not even scratch Reinhardt's back and instead made the sword bend. Reinhardt then casually slammed his bat into the face of the mustachioed man. He himself was also surprised that a sword did not work on him. He even doubted whether this was really a human body. He knew that this was his own body, but he felt that this was too much, although their situation was very tragic when they were hit by Reinhardt's baton. But the best part of this baton art is that it will not kill your enemy, so Reinhardt silently told them not to worry because they will not die. Although their muscles and bones were shattered, screams of pain could be heard every time Reinhardt's baton hit them. When who knows how much time passed, now only Bright was still standing. All his comrades had fallen down while moaning in pain on the ground. With a trembling body, Bright then acted strong. He told him to tell him his name. Hearing that, Reinhardt felt he was still not self-aware either. With a cruel smile on his face, he said, "It's not fair that you are fine while your friend's condition is like that." Bright then screamed for help when Reinhardt's bat hit him. After teaching them all a lesson, Reinhardt then told them to leave. With a battered face and a battered body, Bright respectfully thanked him for his mercy. Looking at the bat that had now been broken into two, Reinhardt did not expect that it was also fun to hit them. He even felt a little sorry that this was over. He thought, maybe later he should take disciples and then hit them, without realizing it. Reinhardt had been affected by the Jim Unbreakable philosophy. Seeing that his pursuers had left, the orc then came out of the hole. While bowing towards him, he then thanked him. He said that he would never forget her help today, and that he would definitely repay his kindness. Seeing his attitude, Reinhardt asked him, "Does a warrior bow their head so easily?" The orc gratefully said, "You have saved me, and even opened a new path for me. Now you are my mentor, and when the time comes, I will take out my sword for you." In orc culture, a mentor is considered a life guide, someone to be respected. For humans, similar to how a knight serves his lord, the orc then respectfully asked, "May I know your name?" Rifenhard at first wanted to say that his name was Tesslon, but he immediately abandoned his intention, after thinking for a moment. He then said that his name was Rifenhard. Rifenhard Wald and Teres. The orc then planted the name firmly in his head. He would remember it until he died. Rifenhard then asked him, "The worlds belong to humans. Where will you go? What's the destination in your mind?" Hearing that, the orc said that this continent was vast. He was sure there must be a place for him to rest his body. Even if not, he would rather die traveling the world than live as a slave. Hearing that, Rifenhard then said to him, "Beyond the Larched Mountains, a fortnight's walk to the east, there is a nameless wasteland, a place that the orc race calls the Land of Trails." He told him to go there. He heard that the orcs who live in hiding are there. They are the Blue Bear tribe. Hearing that, with a happy feeling the orc then said he would go first. Seeing him who walked away, Rifenhard then asked him something he forgot to ask him. "What is your name?" The orc said, "I'm the son of Crota, heir to Latzax. My name is Tathid." Rifenhard was stunned to hear that. He did not expect that young orc to turn out to be Tathid, one of the 4 heavenly kings, the great warrior, Tathid. He is the chief of the Blue Bear tribe and will later become the great chieftain of the orcs. He wondered, did the original Tesslon also meet Tathid in his previous life? But judging by his personality, he would not help an orc. While scratching his head, Rifenhardt felt like fate had taken a turn, a fascinating fateful encounter indeed. Rifenhardt smiled a little to see Tathid who was now walking towards the destiny he carried out. He then recalled when he and the otherworldly creatures finally founded a city which later became known as Antares. When he was still living happily together with his friends, he laughed very happily at that time. Remembering that, Rifenhardt silently said, "Let's meet again someday, my friend, my brother, descendant of the brave warrior."